Hey everyone! Welcome back to Human and Nature YouTube channel. Today, I'm bringing you a heartwarming story that will challenge everything you thought you knew about dogs and cats. Max, a loyal German Shepherd, and Ginger, a feisty orange tabby, went from bitter rivals to inseparable best friends. Their incredible journey of friendship proves that even the unlikeliest of bonds can be formed. Let's dive into their unforgettable story. The unlikely friendship. How dogs and cats became friends. It was a chilly morning in 1981 when the story of Max and Ginger began. Max, a rugged German Shepherd with a loud bark, was the loyal protector of the Flores family. Ginger, on the other hand, was a petite, feisty orange tabby cat who ruled the house with her sharp claws and fiery attitude. Back in those days, everyone believed the old saying, dogs and cats were natural enemies. Max and Ginger certainly seemed to live up to that stereotype. Max and Ginger fought like, well, cats and dogs. The moment Ginger set a paw on the kitchen floor, Max would chase her with a thunderous bark. Ginger, not one to back down, would hiss and swipe at Max with her claws. Every room in the Flores house echoed with their battles. The family had accepted it as their normal, one moment of peace, followed by barking, hissing, and chaos. It was almost comical. The Flores children, Julia and Marco, even placed bets on who would win the next skirmish. 10 pesos on Ginger scratching his nose again. Marco would shout, giggling. The chaos became part of their daily lives, but deep down, the Flores family wished for peace between the two animals. One summer day in 1984, everything changed. The Flores family went on a weekend trip to visit relatives in a nearby town, leaving Max and Ginger in the care of their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Perez. She had strict instructions to keep them apart. Ginger would stay in the sunroom, and Max would remain in the backyard. However, as fate would have it, a powerful storm rolled in late that Saturday afternoon. The wind howled, rattling the windows and shaking the house. Rain poured relentlessly, creating puddles that seeped through the cracks in the roof. The thunder was loud, shaking the walls of the old house like a drum. Max, brave against intruders and strangers, was utterly terrified of storms. He began to whimper and scratch at the back door, desperate for comfort. Inside the sunroom, Ginger's ears twitched at every rumble of thunder. Her usual confidence faded as the house trembled under the storm's power. Mrs. Perez, frail and slow on her feet, didn't notice when the latch on the sunroom door came loose. In one loud crash of thunder, Ginger darted out of the sunroom and straight into the living room. At the same moment, Mrs. Perez opened the back door for Max, hoping to calm him down. Max bolted inside, panting and dripping wet, his eyes wide with fear. For a brief moment, Max and Ginger stared at each other in the middle of the room, both soaking wet, both trembling. The instinct to fight was still there, but something stronger overpowered it. Another crack of thunder shook the house, and Max, too afraid to bark, whimpered and crawled under the dining table. Ginger, eyes still wide, hesitated. She could have run away or hissed like she always did, but she didn't. Instead, she slowly padded over to Max, her fur puffed up from the dampness. With careful grace, Ginger curled up beside Max, close enough to share his warmth. Max looked at her, surprised, but he didn't move. For the first time, they shared a moment of peace, two rivals united by fear, huddled together as the storm raged on outside. By the time the Flores family returned late Sunday evening, they were greeted with an unexpected sight. Max and Ginger were curled up together on the living room rug, fast asleep. Mr. Flores froze at the doorway, his bags still in hand. "Are we sure we're in the right house?" he joked. "Look at them," Mrs. Flores whispered, barely believing her eyes. From that day on, everything changed. No one knew exactly what happened during the storm, but Max and Ginger were never the same. The chasing, barking, and hissing stopped. Ginger no longer sprinted out of the room when Max approached. Max, in turn, didn't bark at Ginger's every move. It was as if the storm had washed away their rivalry, leaving behind only trust. Over the next few months, the bond between Max and Ginger grew stronger. The family noticed small changes at first, Ginger curling up beside Max for naps, Max waiting patiently while Ginger drank from his water bowl. One morning, Julia found them sharing a patch of sunlight on the living room floor. Ginger stretched out lazily across Max's paws. "Mom, look at this," Julia called excitedly. Soon, the two became inseparable. They ate side by side, napped together, and even played in the yard. Max would nudge Ginger gently with his nose, and Ginger would respond with playful swats that never used her claws. On cold nights, they slept curled up on the same bed, sharing warmth like old friends. "They're just like siblings," Mrs. Flores said as she placed two bowls, one of dog food and one of kibble, next to each other. Word of Max and Ginger's unlikely friendship spread quickly. Neighbors would stop by just to see them curled up together on the porch. Mrs. Perez told the story of the storm to anyone who would listen, her eyes twinkling with delight. Other families began sharing stories of their own pets, dogs and cats, who had gone from enemies to friends, proving that peace was possible even between the unlikeliest of rivals. By the late 1980s, it seemed the old belief about dogs and cats being natural enemies had begun to fade. Families learned that animals, like people, could form bonds if given the chance. All it took was a moment of understanding. Max and Ginger grew old together, their friendship remaining strong until the very end. When Max passed away one summer afternoon, Ginger stayed beside him, curling up near his favorite spot on the rug. The Flores family buried Max under the oak tree in the backyard, where he had spent many happy days. Ginger sat quietly by his grave, as if saying goodbye to her best friend. Ginger lived for a few more years, but she was never quite the same without Max. When she finally passed, the Flores family buried her beside Max under the same oak tree. To this day, if you visit the Flores family's home, you'll see a plaque near the tree that reads, "Max and Ginger, best friends forever." Their story became a cherished family memory, passed down through generations. What began as a rivalry turned into a heartwarming tale of love, trust, and friendship, a testament to the fact that even the fiercest enemies can become the closest of friends. And there you have it, the unlikely friendship, how dogs and cats became friends. Thank you for joining me today to celebrate this amazing story of friendship. If Max and Ginger's journey touched your heart, hit that like button and share this video with someone who could use a little inspiration. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. Until next time, remember, friendship can bloom in the unlikeliest of places. Bye for now.